So we're going to call this regular meeting of the Saugerties Central School District School Board to order. Emergency exits, we have one at the rear of the room and one on each side of the room. Ms. Carney, would you do roll call, please?
Christine Belarosa.
Here.
Katie Ann Mishkin-Paula. Is she not there? Michelle Gramaglia. Here. Tina Irizarry.
Here.
Just in
Sarah
time.
Kelder.
Here.
Michael Meyer.
Here.
Jeffrey Ozzie.
Here.
Timothy Wells.
Here.
Adriana Argueta.
Here.
Okay. Pledge of Allegiance, everyone.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Dr. Rohrbach, our mission and vision statements, please.
For our mission, we provide equitable, engaging, inspiring, and holistic experiences that support success and empowerment for students, families, and the community in a diverse and changing world. Our vision statement, we are a beacon of educational excellence where every individual is inspired and able to achieve their fullest potential.
All right, thank you. So I apologize for this little curveball, but we will keep it to about 10 minutes. So we need to recess into a quick executive session, and literally I mean 10 minutes. There's just a couple of financial topics that we need to discuss before we push the meeting. I know we have a lot of people here tonight, and we're going to be cognizant of that, so we will not extend it. We'll have our normal executive session at the end, but I just want to make everybody aware we will be as quick as possible, okay? So can I have a motion to recess into executive session? By Ms. Gramaglia. Second by Mr. Wells. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. everybody for your patience. Can I have a motion to reconvene open session? By Mr. Wells, seconded by Ms. Grimalia. All those in favor? Okay. All right. Moving on, we have approval of minutes of our March 10th meeting. Motion to accept. By Ms. Delarosa, seconded by Mr. Wells. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Dr. Rohrbach, Staff SOAR Awards.
Yes. Okay, so for the month of April, we have a whole class we would like to honor and a staff member we would like to honor as well. So this month, we are proud to recognize an entire class for exemplifying our Sawyer core values of being solution-focused, engaged, empowered, and collaborative. We celebrate Mrs. Mulford's third grade class at Riccardi Elementary School for their thoughtful work to reduce plastic waste in our environment. These students partnered with food service manager Sheila Melville to explore and propose practical solutions for minimizing plastic use in our cafeterias. So one idea emerging from their collaboration is Finger Food Fridays. It hasn't happened yet, but we look forward to it. While their project is still in development, their initiative, advocacy, and partnership with staff reflect a meaningful commitment to real-world problem solving. So we commend these students and Mrs. Mulford for turning their learning into action. So they didn't have a lot of notice, and I'm going to their class tomorrow, but if we could all give a round of applause for And then for our staff Sawyer Soars Award, the administrative team reached a clear and unanimous decision. We are honored to recognize Angel Rodriguez, Senior Inventory Control Assistant. In his role overseeing district shipping, receiving, and inventory, Angel consistently demonstrates professionalism, integrity, and care. He always goes above and beyond, whether it's transporting a sports team in a pinch with very little notice, or transferring boxes upon boxes without ever complaining. His responsibilities, he goes above and beyond for all of his responsibilities, and he is known across our schools for his positivity and willingness to support others. His daily interactions leave a lasting impression, and each building always looks forward to his visits. Angel's work embodies the spirit of service and excellence, and we value across this district. So congratulations, Angel Rodriguez.
Okay. That brings us to our first public recognition. If there's anybody who would like to address the board, this first public recognition is reserved for things that are on the agenda. So if there's other topics that are not on the agenda, they need to, we'll address those at our later. Anybody? Okay. Adriana, our student representative report.
High school. Congratulations to all of our National Honor Society inductees. This distinction reflects your commitment to scholarship, leadership, service, and character. It was a wonderful ceremony. Great job to all who participated in the Pops concert. Your talent, dedication, and hard work were evident in a truly outstanding performance. We will recognize and celebrate our quarter 3 core value award recipients with a breakfast on April 21st in the high school library. Junior high. Our spring fling social was held on March 18th for junior high students to dance and socialize with peers. Thank you to the FCCLA and Spanish Club for hosting. The agricultural classes have been busy learning about sustainability and taking visits to the greenhouse. Our ABC classroom will be taking a field trip to release the trout they have produced in the partnership with the Ashokan Environmental Group, Cahill. On Thursday, March 26th, we held our first annual Genius Hour and Science Fair. We had over 45 projects from students in grades K through 6 present their work to the community. Our spring concert was on Thursday, April 9th. The band and choral groups put on a wonderful performance. We are looking forward to our Cahill's Got Talent show on April 17th. We started New York State ELA testing this week and will continue math, science, and New York State English as a second language achievement testing this month. The next PTA meeting is on Wednesday, April 15th in the Cahill cafeteria at 6 p.m. Morse. Students and staff are doing a great job with the New York State 3 through 8 assessment. We are so proud of everybody. At yesterday's all-staff meeting, we did a safety focus and did a hands-on demonstration of the AED and stair wheelchair. Our 5th and 6th grade band and chorus concerts will be on Monday, April 20th at 7 p.m. Our next PTA meeting is Wednesday, April 15th, and our next BLT meeting is Wednesday, April 29th. Recording. New York State assessments are off to a great start. Students are energized and showing all they have learned. We are continuing our year-long focus on trauma-informed practices with all staff, with a particular emphasis on taking care of ourselves and one another, so we can fully take care of our students. Riccardi's chorus and band are excited to announce that their spring concert is next Thursday, April 23rd at 7 p.m., with doors opening at 6:30. We are looking forward to our kindergarten and first grade small and tall ball on Friday, April 24th at 5 p.m.
All right. Thank you, Adriana. Now moving on to Mr. Tryon. And you look like you have a team behind you that looks like they're ready to bounce out of the chairs.
All right, I'll start while we're getting that up. Thanks for having me. My name is Paul Tryon, principal of Riccardi Elementary. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you to all of our student representatives for coming tonight and helping represent what makes Riccardi great. So this presentation will be organized according to the 4 pillars that we have. So academic excellence, family and community engagement, professional culture, and our students, our Sawyer experience. And of course, all the work we do is concretely aligned around our mission and our vision. And so everything you're going to hear tonight is our pursuit of educational excellence so that we continue to be a beacon of educational excellence. I guess I have the power now. There we go. So we are most certainly in pursuit of academic excellence at Riccardi, and I'm very proud of the progress thus far that we're seeing. So if we just look at iReady and our state assessments, right, 2 of the major metrics that we use, we have seen steady progress over the last 3 years. So our math and ELA rates are up from 3 to 6% over the last 3 years, which is really great to see. A lot of time you see, in data, academic data, it looks a lot like the stock market, right? And this is kind of more consistent over the last 3 years. So, and most recently, I'd like to point out that 2 out of 4 of our testing grades, so 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, scored, or they had pass rates in math that were 10 to 20 percentage rates higher than state averages. So state averages are typically around 50%, give or take. And so that means that 60 to 70% were our pass rates in math in 2 out of 4 of our testing grades. And it's 2 out of 4, right? So we've still got growth to make, but I'm really proud of the trajectory that we're on academically. So how are we doing that, right? There's no silver bullet, but there's a number of initiatives that we have. And the one thing I'd love to highlight tonight, and we have a quick video clip that I promised Dr. G we're going to get right up there and not waste any time with it. But we've got a couple third graders who were talking about something called number talks with Mrs. Pettit. And they're going to, who better to hear from than our students about, how number talks influence them. So Rocco's going to pull up that video if you can. Thank you, sir. This is Leo and Keith in third grade at Ricard.
Okay, sitting with me, I have two third graders from Riccardi. I have Leo and Keith, and they're going to tell me a little bit about number talks. So boys, what is a number talk in your own words?
A warm-up.
A warm-up, okay.
And a quick question to get our brains ready.
Why do we use number talks in math class? What do you think?
To see what we already know and for prior knowledge.
How do number talks help students become better mathematicians? What do you think?
Practice our math vocabulary and teach us things we might not know.
What are the rules or expectations during a number talk?
To raise your hand and write down ideas and use hand signals to show you agree.
Oh, what hand signal do you guys use to show you agree? Nice. And what does it mean to explain your thinking?
Not just saying yes or no, and to justify our claims with evidence.
Oh, there's that math vocabulary. Well, thank you, boys.
So thank you to Mrs. Pettit, thank you to Leo and Keith for doing that. Right, the whole point of number talks is to think conceptually about math, right? So ensuring that they're able to clarify their thinking, right? Build off of others' ideas, evaluate one another's responses. So it's less, this is the formula that you should use, right? Kind of like a lot of us were raised with, and more about understanding how conceptually to talk about math and the math concepts that we teach every day. Just very briefly diving into the data, we have some noticings and wonderings. In the primary grades, we see some summer learning loss, specifically in phonemic awareness and phonics, which are foundational to literacy growth. And we're seeing that comprehension and vocabulary are also priority areas as we move forward. So as we're identifying next steps, these are the areas that we're focused on at Riccardi. We're seeing similar summer learning loss across domains in math, for example, geometry and number sense. So one of the things we're working on is how to make learning stickier, right? How students can remember what they learn better, right? So whether it's spiraling assessments or spiraling instruction, ensuring that there are opportunities over the summer that are cost effective to support our students and our families, so that come September, the proficiency rates are just as high or nearly as high as they were in the spring. So we're on the right track, we have momentum, and we also have some next steps to sustain that momentum. All right, the moment we have all been waiting for. In terms of family and community engagement, we have so many wonderful priorities, but so many wonderful initiatives, but one initiative I want to highlight tonight is our Riccardi Community Service Club. I am so proud of this club. It is completely student-run. They are excelling under the leadership of Miss Daphne. They have countless initiatives, so the Community Service Club is at the Children's Hospital, the food pantry, they're caroling at the nursing homes, the animal shelter, the veterans. We have incredible strong student participation. Over 55 fifth and sixth graders participate. We had to find another classroom to house everyone. And I'm just really proud of everyone. So I want to share three specific examples, and Zoe Gresh is here. I'll call her up in a minute. She's the president to share a few words, but I just want to share three examples of two other students who are here today, and a third who couldn't make, I don't think she can make it. So the vice president of the Community Service Club, Michaela Longo, wanted to make sure that we had enough gifts for all the children in the Albany's Children's Hospital. So she came up with the idea to challenge the fourth grade. Whichever class brought in the most toys to donate to the hospital would get a cookie party, and Michaela would personally bake herself. So this action alone raised 101 toys for the Children's Hospital. Second example I want to share that I think captures the spirit of giving at Riccardi is the club's advertising manager, Marley Sasso, volunteered for the St. John's Food Pantry and brought in many donations herself. She was so touched by what she saw at the pantry while volunteering that she approached her mother's boss and got their organization to do a food drive for the pantry. And she was just, again, so inspired by what she saw. So a big round of applause for Michaela and Marley. Please stand. Thank you for your work, Marley. And last month, Maddie Weeks found out that the food pantry was in desperate need of juice. So she challenged the entire third grade to bring in as much juice as they could, with the winning class getting a brownie party. And they were able to donate 67 large bottles of juice. So thank you, Maddie. Please stand. Let's give her a round of applause. So we're very proud of all of our students. So thank you, Michaela, Marley, and Maddie. 3 M's. Tongue twister. You're trying to mess me up with that one. And now I do want to invite Zoe Gresh up, our president of the Community Service Club, for a few words.
My name is Zoe Gresh, and I am a 6th grader at Riccardi. I am the president of the Riccardi Elementary School's Community Service Club. My proudest moment of being president of this club was seeing an idea grow into something that truly made a difference. I wasn't sure how many people would show up to the event or how successful it would be, but seeing every event we did be a success was inspiring to me. To list a few of our accomplishments, this year our club has raised over 1,500 pairs of socks for a shelter and gave 500 pairs to our school nurse for kids in our building. Donated Christmas gifts to every resident in the Ivy Lodge, and we also decorated ornaments and read with the residents. Donated over 350 toys to the Albany Children's Hospital. Donated food for the animals at the Saugerties Animal Shelter. Donated $2,697 of gift cards to our veterans and over 197 boxes of cereal and other food items to the food pantry. Being the president of Community Service Club at Riccardi has taught me so many things. It has taught me to be prepared for meetings, be a better listener to my peers, leadership skills, teamwork, but most of all, empathy and compassion. This experience has been amazing, and I hope to continue when I reach 7th grade next year. I really want to thank Ms. Daphne for all of her time and effort she puts in every day to make this club happen, and for helping me grow in my role, and for believing in me to be the president of the Community Service Club. You are a true inspiration to us all. I hope that next year even more students will want to join the Riccardi Community Service Club, and it continues to grow even bigger. This club not only helped me find my voice, but most importantly, it helps our community we all love. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. And of course, thank you, Ms. D, as well. All right, moving on to professional culture. So we will continue to have deliberate work around Carol Dweck's mindset work, specifically when it comes to data, right? In terms of how we as adults at Riccardi view data and how it moves us forward, right? Moving away from this idea that it's just an accountability tool to evaluate how we're doing, and more in terms of what's the next step? What's the one thing that we can do as a teacher, as a teacher's aide, teaching assistant, as an aide, as a principal? What's the one thing that I can do to move us forward based on the numbers that we have? We have a continuing hyper-focus on student engagement. So we're still thinking about engagement as a continuum and not as a binary, is a student engaged or not. We are continuing our trauma-informed practices as we are across the network. I'd like to shout out the Riccardi kindergarten team for working closely with Dr. Jen and myself on the science of reading shifts. They spent a lot of time preparing for those meetings and sharing what's working, what's not, and what they need from us as a district. So that's been a great collaboration. And then, of course, just to end on a fun note, we have a staff band, because even professionals have to have a little fun. And so thanks to Mr. Hogan, we learned and performed a Taylor Swift song last year. And I think it's safe to say that the cafeteria never had so many children's voices singing, and the player's gonna play. So that was a great experience. It got really loud in there, didn't it? And finally, the student experience. So to close out the presentation tonight, I'm fortunate to be joined by our student government officers. Please give a warm welcome to Emma, Mackenzie, Owen, and Matthew. They're going to come up and talk about what they're most proud of and what makes Riccardi great. So coming up, guys.
Hello, my name is Owen, and I'm the Riccardi Social Director. I helped plan the park assembly, and I was one of the actors in it, along with my student government peers. We rehearsed a lot every Wednesday with student government, and we came down during lunchtimes to practice it with Mr. Tryon. We also recorded park videos to help make the storyline make sense that would be published on the district's social media page. Our goal was to make other students want to read more by adding a fun twist to it. We met our goal because we had thousands of minutes read across Riccardi. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matthew Splavey, and I'm the Vice President of the Riccardi Student Government. I'm really proud of being part of this wonderful school. The teachers and students are both so nice, and we have really memorable events like Field Day, the Lion Bowl Park Spirit Days, classroom activities, and many other fun events. I also want to thank our hardworking custodians, lunch monitors, security guards, secretaries, teaching assistants, aides, our nurse, our special teachers, bus drivers, OT, PT, and speech, our food service staff, and of course, Mr. Tryon. With all of these wonderful people, Riccardi is a wonderful school. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emma, and I'm the Riccardi Student Government Treasurer. I'm really proud of making it to student government because we worked really hard and all wrote an essay to get in. We also had to make posters. We also had to say speeches and make posters and talk about why we should be elected for the position. After my speech, I went over what I could do better so I can learn from it. It was especially hard to go against my classmates and friends who were running for the same position, but it was worth all the effort that I put into it. I'm excited about possibly running again in middle school. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Caton, and I'm the president of Riccardi Student Government. I'm really proud of the time and effort we put into making a music video to go along with the theme song that Mr. Tryon wrote. In fact, some of our fellow student government officers recorded the song, as well as some other fifth grade students as part of the enrichment class with our music teacher, Mr. Hogan. When we made the video, we got to observe many classrooms and how they run, and we were excited to star in the video ourselves. I really enjoyed spending time with my fellow officers, and we had lots of fun doing this. I hope everyone enjoys Riccardi's music video and is inspired to work hard, be kind, and most of all, have fun.
All right, great job, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. To close, we know that students are more likely to come to school, right, and be engaged when they feel a real connection to the day-to-day, right, the minute-to-minute, everything that we do. And I'm so proud of all of these initiatives because we're seeing it in the data. We're seeing specifically an incredible improvement on Riccardi's chronic absenteeism rate, which improved by 4 percentage points over 3 years. So we went from 20% to 18% down to 16% chronic absenteeism. So we're on the right track. Kids are coming to school and they're engaged and they're having fun. So, thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Tryon, and thank you to all the students. That was fantastic. Okay. Dr. Rohrback, student attendance report.
Well done, Riccardi. Thank you so much. Safe travels home. You definitely inspired all of us with all of your just amazing giving, generosity, and humanity. Thank you for making Saugerties look so good. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about budget.
Well,
So, I know some of you want to sneak out too. In all seriousness, this is my favorite time of year. Our fields are full, our students are active. I see smiles on their face when they're outside, with a palpable sense of energy across our schools and throughout our community. These moments really, and especially tonight with Riccardi, reflect the very best of who we are and who we strive to be as a district, a true beacon of excellence grounded in opportunity, engagement, and pride. Tonight, as we enter our third budget conversation, it is challenging. And every single day working with Mr. Steiger on the budget has been a challenging exercise. I want to be clear about our North Star. Students are our why. They are the center of every decision we make. Delivering on that commitment requires people, resources, and environments that support learning and growth. It requires staff, materials, safe and well-maintained facilities, and experiences that bring learning to life. As we develop this budget, we consistently return to one question: what is best for students? At the same time, we recognize our responsibility to be fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. These dual commitments require difficult, thoughtful decisions, particularly in a time when student needs are increasing, mandates continue to expand that are very often unfunded, and costs in general, life costs, are rising. There is no simple equation between enrollment and expenditures because the needs of our students are more complex and more intensive than ever before. So our work remains anchored in our 4 pillars. We continue to advance academic excellence through strong instructional practices and new opportunities, such as the literacy assessments that Mr. Tryon applauded the kindergarten team working on. We are strengthening our professional culture by supporting and developing the adults who make this work possible. We are deepening family and community engagements through efforts like our Sawyer Family and Community series. So far, we just finished that series. It was the first time we launched this series. They were all virtual and webinars, and we had 52 parents who actually attended all of those series. We had 113 registered. They will have access to all these videos at any time that they want. So it was a good, healthy start, and next year we'll do it again and hopefully have it expand. And we are elevating the Sawyer experience by creating meaningful, engaging opportunities for both students, both inside and outside the classroom. There's so much to be proud of as we advance academic excellence, elevate student voice, and enhance our Sawyer experience, from student-led events such as the National Honor Society induction to the accomplishments of our valedictorian, Emma French, salutatorian, Sophie Voss, and the Principal's Award recipient, Chris Stokes. And the achievements of our all-county musicians. I was so thrilled that our elementary students are finally wonderfully participating. Well done, music teachers, for getting them involved. The seal of civic readiness. Today there were presentations. The mock trial continues in their competitions, and our science researchers who presented to the internal review board to receive approval for their science research. The IRB approves whether a science research project is ethical and can continue to be researched. So not only are our students meeting high expectations, but actively shaping their learning experiences, their work, their voices, and their growth are the clearest reflection of our mission in action. So additionally, as I'm wrapping up here, we received encouraging news from SED with approval of our planned pilot Regents waiver in 5 subject areas. While implementation details continue to evolve, because this is all brand new, and Saugerties is charting the waters along with 23 other districts, it is very exciting, and we are a leader in this project-based learning and alternative assessments, as for the 3rd time this week, Ms. DeFino and her team of teachers were asked to share their experiences with other high schools and at state conferences. So as we move into tonight's discussion, I ask that we remain grounded in a shared understanding. This work is really complex. It requires partnership, transparency, and a collective commitment to both our students and our community. Our goal is not only to balance the budget, but to do so in a way that preserves and strengthens the educational experience our students deserve. Thank you for your continued engagement and your commitment to our schools. Please continue to reach out to me and my admin team. We want to hear from you. We want to engage with you. Any questions or concerns that you may have. And in closing, please continue to take care of yourself, take care of our students, and take care of one another.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rohrbeck.
Board member remarks. Start with Mike or Mr. Meyer.
Good evening, thanks. I will be very brief, but I really enjoyed the Riccardi's students' presentation about their service projects. I'm not here, but I applaud their thinking of their community members, fellow students, as they provide food and essentials to those in need. It's always good to think of others. And then just quickly, I was able to attend the BOCES annual meeting last week. While the meeting itself was not that entertaining, the real benefit was talking to the students that were there. It was really great to hear from the various technical groups, and the students really were very proud of the work that they had done. They really feel like they found their niche, they found their tribe, and you could really get a sense of their pride in the work that they were doing, the food they were preparing, the automotive, veterinarian, the whole gamut of things there. So it's a great resource. That's it.
Ms. Bellarosa.
Just quickly, I just wanted to thank Mr. Tryon for his presentation, and really to thank the students who got up with the courage to speak, and they all were very confident, and it really shows in what they're doing, you know, and how much they care about their school and their community, and it was really nice to see. So thank you.
Ms. Irizarry. Good? Okay. Mr. Wells.
All right. Got me? All right, good. I guess I would kind of echo what these guys said in regards to Mr. Tryon. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think the community service club is just amazing. I was not aware of that, and I would have pushed my daughter maybe a little bit more to get in there if she was not. So I think it's really awesome to kind of see what you're doing. I hope that, you know, it's showing all of the 65 students how empathy and compassion is received, and how to care for one another is just an amazing feeling for both people, honestly. So I think that's really awesome. You know, I'd like to say thank you to the students that you had here for getting up and speaking. Some of them I knew personally, which is great. I would love to say thank you for the first picture on the slide, that's a little inside thing between him and I guess. Congratulations to the National Honor Society. students. I think that's an amazing accomplishment. I mean, that's something that you worked really hard for, and you should be very proud of what you've done with that. I'd like to know more about the trout produced. That is like a pretty cool thing. Like you said that, I'm like, huh, like how did that happen? So I think I might need to do a little more digging on my side for that. And then congratulations to Cahill with the science fair. That's all I got.
Mr. Maloney.
Good evening, everyone. For those that were probably sitting next to me, I always cry when I'm like proud of things. Like I just had tears in my eyes with these Riccardi kids. So congratulations. That's the mom in me, but they were so proud of themselves. And that's a moment that they're always going to remember. And just the numbers that they were talking about putting up, it was absolutely astounding to me. And that is us creating thriving members of society that are putting other people first. And I think every single person in this room that's listening to this should be very, very proud of that. We can't ignore the good things that are happening. You know, we've got a rough couple of meetings coming up. We have to talk numbers. It's always difficult. The numbers of unfunded mandates that are being placed on our districts, and particularly related to certain things around special education and transportation within, is just absolutely astounding. You heard me say this before, I've learned an enormous amount in the last 9 months about the actual costs of doing some of these things out of district transportation and the cost of implementing 504s and a variety of other things. I think it's really important as we look over the next week, and I'm entirely confident in Dr. Rohrbach and the business officials to bring us a balanced budget. I know we're going to get there, but we need to be looking to the future as well. We can't just be looking at a one-year budget. We need to be looking at what have we accomplished to get us to where we are? What are all the additional programming that we've already added over the last 5 years? We were talking about some specifics in executive session. Where are we going? And what does this mean about the changing student population? What do we need to anticipate in the future? This is an opportunity for us to invest in the district, invest in the students, putting the students first. And I really hope that the community comes out and votes in favor of this budget. And we look forward to presenting this to you in its final form next week.
Ms. Keller.
I think everyone has pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. I also want to congratulate Riccardi students. You know, I think that we are very fortunate in this community, as everyone else has said, that we have students that really care about one another, and they are continually, I mean, we've seen it throughout the year with the presentations from some of the other students at the other schools, how they want to take care of our community, so I think that's great. And not just the people of our community, but, you know, the environment of our community. So congratulations to Ms. Mulford's class. I just happened this afternoon to hear one of the third graders tell me about no plastic Fridays, or no plastic day, no plastic in the cafeteria, and I heard a little speech that might be coming up on the announcements. I think they're announcing different things each day. So I just think that that's awesome. I think that, you know, those are the types of things that are authentic learning, as well as what we're teaching in a classroom, and they're so important to make good human beings. So that's, you know, what we strive to do at Saugerties. And Miss Daphne she's wonderful. She's wonderful, and she really puts everything she has into that program that she does. So, like Michelle said, we have some difficult meetings that are coming up to talk about the budget. You know, and if you've been reading the Freeman or any newspaper, it's not just Saugerties that's in a sticky situation. It is all of the school districts, you know, in this county and the surrounding counties in New York State. So, you know, we're all in that situation, and we are doing the best that we can to make sure that we are looking to preserve these wonderful programs and opportunities for our students. But, you know, there are going to be some difficult decisions that we're going to have to make in a short period of time. And so if I would encourage anyone that's listening, if you have questions or you have concerns, to reach out to any of us. let us know now, because next week, we're going to be, making tough decisions. So that's all I have.
Dr. Haas. Excuse me. We can't hear. No. We
No,
can't.
now you can. I
Yep, there we go.
can't turn my mic on.
There we go.
I just want to say that I agree that, it's not even that they're going to be hard meetings, it's just that we have a lot to think about, and how are we going to be good stewards of the money and the resources that we have to serve students and families in the district. And I have to say that I am glad to be with people that I am with on this board and in the administration to make these decisions, because I feel like they are thoughtful and efficient and know what they're up to. So anyway, and then I look forward to sort of looking forward and beyond. I mean, we need to get through this season, and we also need to make sure the decisions we're making today are going to serve us in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So, and then we just have a couple of policies. We have 3 policies on the agenda later on. These are all coming up for a second read. If you click on the policy that's in the agenda, you'll also have links to the marked up versions of them. I just want to call out Dr. Kapler for really providing such quick and efficient feedback on the 2 policies on the medication and personal care items and the students with life-threatening health conditions. I feel like these policies, we discuss them, and then it's just the way policy is supposed to be developed, right? Bring it to the people who are actually engaged in practice and saying, how does this policy align with practice? And does the practice need to change because the policy, we need a better policy in place, or does the policy need to make sure that we're reflecting the current practices? So I think we have 3 very strong policies that are saying what they need to, and yeah. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. I will be quick. There's a couple things. One, thank you, Mr. Tryon, and I kind of joked at the beginning, but your students behind you literally be bouncing with energy to get up and talk, so that was great to see. I take a little different view of the budget and they are hard decisions and discussions. This is my 3rd school budget that I've been involved with from this table. But in 30 years, I've never gone through a budget in any aspect of my life in the private world where it was easy. Where wow, revenues was here, expenses were here, and we just signed on the dotted line and it was over. With every budget that you put together, there are going to be decisions. I don't look at the decisions we have to make this year any different than the decisions we've had to make the first 2 years that I've been here. The decisions that are going to have to be made, they are across the board. It's a give and take here. I have to tell you, I am confident in the team that we have in place, from Dr. Rohrbach and Mr. Steiger, and just as important, Dr. Rohrbach's cabinet that she's put together, that they're going to make the right decisions that take our students first, and then go from there, which is the only thing you can ask from this type of budget. The other thing is from people being engaged, as Ms. Kelder said, if anybody out there who's listening or in the public have questions, email us, email Dr. Rohrbach, email Mr. Steiger. Our emails are all out there, and just in the way sometimes the questions are formulated for the public, or from the public, allow us to think about something in a different way that we didn't think about. The other thing is, there are things out there to get involved. One of our, actually, I think it's our largest non-employee expense is our transportation. Well, right now there's a survey out there to all the main household contacts asking for input on transportation. Please take that serious. Please respond back to it. It's open until the 17th, which I believe is Friday. If we have to extend it a little bit, we will. We'd rather not extend it past Monday because next Tuesday is another meeting and a big day. But your feedback on that will allow this team to look at some things on what we do around transportation. And really, you know, as I think Ms. Gramalia said, transportation and special ed are the two areas where we budget at the beginning of the year, and then because of things that happen, they change. And I don't mean change by $5,000. They change by hundreds of thousands of dollars. So everybody's input on those couple of areas are critical. And that's all I have.
Can we get that survey sent to us too, just so we know what's on it?
The correct answer is yes.
Okay, yes.
Even if, I don't know we can, but yes, we'll get it to you.
Okay.
Yes, it's out there,
I'm
yes.
just curious to see what's
Just
on it.
announce the date kind of next week's meeting. It's all public meeting.
Yeah, it's an open public meeting. It is going to be singularly budget focused. If there are a couple of resignations or appointments that we have to get in, we will, but there'll be nothing else on the agenda but the budget. So it is Tuesday, April 21st at 6:30. Okay? And then just going forward, just be correct and correct me if I'm wrong, Virginia, but I believe in May, the meeting is on the 5th. It's the first Monday, not the second Monday. At least that's the way the calendar's set up now, so we should check that and we can talk about it later, okay? Yeah, okay? All right, thank you. So we will get the transportation surveyed out, everyone around this table. And we got the meeting for next week. Okay, any other questions on that stuff? All right. I am turning the microphone over to Miss Chelsea DeFino, pilot program.
Hi, I'm Chelsea DeFino. I'm the assistant principal for grades 7 through 12. I'm also our Plan Pilot coordinator at the high school. So I've presented a few times about the Plan Pilot program, and I just want to add some very exciting updates that we recently got. I shared a slide deck with everybody that had some examples of student projects and links, so I'm not going to read through everything, but I am going to highlight the important stuff tonight. So again, to recap, Plan Pilot is a 3-year action research program that we are involved in. We are one of 23 schools in New York State who was selected to participate, and we are in year 2 of the program. Right now we have a working group of teachers who are piloting project-based learning and performance-based assessment tasks in their classrooms. And we were recently approved by NYSED for regulatory flexibility for Part 100 of the Commissioner's regulations. That is the Regents exams as diploma requirements flexibility. So just some acronyms that I'll be using tonight. There's a lot of P's and L's in there. So PBL stands for project-based learning. That is the instructional practice these teachers are trying out. PBLA is performance-based learning assessments. Those are the assessment tasks the students are doing. And presentations of learning are how students are showcasing their work to the public, whether it be peers, staff members, or a community. I have also linked in here the published case study on our work here that NYSED published about 6 months ago, as well as the link to the Plan Pilot information. And this directly relates to New York Inspires and the Portrait of a Graduate. So we're actually doing the action research to shape for the rest of the state what assessment looks like, what the future of learning looks like, and how students will be assessed on the Portrait of a Graduate competencies. And we're getting a chance to actually shift the trajectory of what that looks like rather than be told what to do years down the line. So it's very exciting work. So the exciting part. We were approved for regulatory flexibility. So what that means is students in classes that are completing performance-based learning assessment tasks, we had to submit all of our proposed tasks to New York State. It went through a very arduous feedback process. We got a lot of feedback from them that we had to change and tweak. as we went to make sure that the projects were rigorous and aligned to standards, and they were approved. So students who take the Regents exams for those classes, if they do not receive a passing score on the Regents exam, but receive a passing score on their PBLA project, they will get the graduation requirement credit for that course without needing the passing score on a Regents. So my example there is a 11th grade student takes the US History Regents, they get a 63, they're right on the border there, but their PBLA portfolio receives a score of a 75. They do not have to keep retaking US History until they pass. Their PBLA task will count as the graduation requirement. So this is huge for our students. Some of these exams are real barriers to kids who struggle taking standardized tests or have anxiety around that. And I think we're really going to see it make a difference for our kids. And currently the courses for which we are approved with the regulatory flexibility are life science biology, algebra 1, so those 2 exams apply to all of our 9th graders, US history, which is typically taken in 11th grade, and then chemistry and physics, which are typically taken in 10th or 11th grade. I included in the presentation some student work samples. I'm not going to go through all of those, but you guys have the slides if you want to look through them, and this is also on the website now. Again, the courses participating, the ones with Regents exams attached are highlighted in blue, and we were approved for every exemption that we applied for. Another really exciting development that was completely student-driven. We have been working with a mentor school, Thomas Edison High School in Queens. They came to visit. They brought a group of their kids with them who actually work with teachers and help design curriculum. Our kids met their kids and were like, we want to do that here. So we actually have students who are now attending our curriculum planning meetings with the teachers and co-planning with the teachers. It's totally open to any students who want to participate. I send out an email to everybody a couple weeks before, and the kids join in. So we had another meeting today. We had one 11th grader and 2 9th graders come to planning, and they've actually started their own after-school club because they want to be more involved in this work. So that was completely student-driven, not a part of our plan at all, but it's been amazing to see. And then one thing they also want to do this year is have a showcase event open to the public in the evening so people can come in and start to see some of the work that they're doing. So stay tuned for more communication out about when their assessments and presentations will be happening. We'll definitely be inviting you all to join and see some of those, but it's very, very exciting work, and we're super happy that our students are getting this opportunity. Any questions? Yeah.
In terms of the assessments, the PBLAs, are they happening automatically? So did the student have to fail the Regents to then do the PBLA, or are the PBLAs happening with every student?
They're all doing them, yep, in their classes right now. And they are counting as their final exam grade. So the Regents grades aren't counting in their grades at all. Every student in those courses will be doing a PBLA.
I was going to ask the same question.
Yeah, and it's been going on all year since the start of the year.
Thanks. If a student doesn't have a successful PBLA during the school year, is that going to be available in the summer? I know the summer school is typically focused on the Regents, but.
Yeah, so part of this is instilling growth mindset, right? And the test is kind of a one and done thing, and you don't pass it, okay, now you have to take a completely new test with different questions and hope for the best in 3 months. The whole point of shifting towards PBLA is giving the kids the opportunity to actually revise and learn from their mistakes. So the goal is if they're not successful on the PBLA, they're getting feedback on everything they need to fix and what they need to work on and the chance to try again.
Ms. DeFino, when some critics might say that this isn't as rigorous as the Regents, what might you say?
Yes, I have that in a slide too. I forgot, it was the next slide, thank you. Yeah, so there's a lot of misconceptions with PBLA that people have. One of them that I hear often is that, oh, we're just doing this to lower standards for kids so that more kids pass the Regents and it looks better, or get the credit and it looks better for us. This is actually raising the bar, right? Because a typical standardized Regents exam, we're just testing kids on their content knowledge. With PBLA, we are also assessing their speaking and listening, their critical thinking, their communication and collaboration, their professionalism, all of those attributes of our portrait of a graduate. So we're actually adding additional competencies that we are assessing students on. It's raising the bar. Another thing people wonder often is how this affects college, right? So is this gonna affect kids' transcripts or their ability to go to the college that they want? We have some flexibility in how we display PBLA on our transcript. So we can put students' Regents grades if they do really well. We can report it as an exemption if they do not pass the Regents. We can also put in their PBLA scores and what that is. So we do have local flexibility there. And there is research documenting that students who do PBLA in high school are actually better prepared for college. They're more confident. They're able to speak to professors and advocate for themselves and communicate better than students just prepared for a traditional exam. So we want to give our students an edge above their peers rather than just maintaining status quo. And then with anything new, there always comes the fear of initiative fatigue and people feeling like this is just another new thing that we're trying. It's going to be different the next year. We've been doing PBLA in this district for a long time in many departments. It's been going on for decades. We had a district-wide focus on project-based learning that started in 2022 before we even got into Plan Pilot. So we are just continuing to build on a lot of the work that's already been happening here. Other questions?
I have another. And you probably already answered it, but I just need a refresher.
So students, they have to take the Regents, or can they opt out of the Regents? They can't opt out of the Regents.
Yeah.
They have to take the Regents no matter what, and then they're doing this anyway.
Yes.
So will it always be like that, where, you know, they'll always have a PBLA to do in that specific class as well?
So for right now, yeah. So as part of ESSA, the Every Student Succeed Act, we do have to have our students take the Regents exams. So in order to qualify for the exemption, they have to show up to the test and attempt it. We have been granted this waiver for this school year and next school year. And then New York Inspires kicks in shortly after that. So I'm hoping the Plan Pilot bridges the gap between now and then, but we do have this waiver for at least 2 years. And I did put out to New York State that we're hoping to expand into additional waivers next year as we continue to grow the program.
Hi. I wanted to ask, is there an effort to seek out students who may have passed the class but didn't pass the Regents to pull them into PBLA?
Like to give them the option to do this?
To give them the option to do
Yeah.
this. If they've passed the class, they no longer have the class, so is there an option or is there a path for those students who still have a failed Regents to participate in this if they're not actually sitting currently
In the class, yeah. So that's a really good question. The waiver does apply to kids who failed previously. We would probably have to get creative on a case-by-case basis with the counselors on what that looked like for those students, because they're not in the class where they're doing the PBLA the whole time. But I think it lends itself really well to things like summer school, where instead of just reviewing random topics for 3 weeks, there's an actual task that students can be working towards.
Right.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Warbeck and Mr. Steiger.
Thank you.
okay. I'm gonna move right ahead. Good. Okay, so this evening, one of the things that we really want to lean into is student needs. Historically, every time there has been a budget conversation in this particular district, it almost feels oppressive because it's the same old reoccurring conversation of there is no money and we need to make cuts. So where I want to center the conversation, especially after everything you have heard tonight from our Riccardi students taking leadership roles in the community to us being a leader in New York State with the Plan Pilot, is thinking creatively, thinking with fiscal responsibility to our taxpayers, and putting the needs of the students first and foremost. Every decision we're going to do has to be centered around the students of Saugerties Central School District. So tonight, some of the things I'm going to share were requests from board members, and then tonight, Mr. Steiger will share some of our expenditures and where we are at with our numbers. That transportation survey is going to influence a week from today what we present. So everyone, please fill that out because it is really important information to us. So again, we need to start planning for our future, and not just this year. So we need to stop taking away academic supports, and we need to continue student-driven programming, and we need to start designing programs with the portrait of a graduate at the center. So in 2027, the regents are going away. That's why Saugerties is ahead of the game with our Plan Pilot. So it's so imperative that everything we do with our budget needs to be aligned with the portrait of a graduate, with our 4 pillars and our blueprint. So again, as a healthy reminder, some of our current drivers for our budget are already predetermined. Things like contractual salaries, things like benefit and health insurance, transportation, and special education is a huge driver. It is really important tonight that as we're talking about special education, it is our duty. Every single child has a right to an education, and some children have different needs and require different supports, which may or may not cost more. So this was an ask, and it was a really good ask. This is our district as a quick snapshot. We have 2,463 students. We have 613 students with disabilities today. Today, we have 69 English language learners. And we have 1,027 students who are below the threshold of poverty. That's free and reduced lunch is what gives us that data. And we have 445 staff, and half of that staff is certificated. So one of the questions that happens again and again and again is, why is our budget going up when our enrollment is going down? And as you can see in this graph, it is significantly going down. And I've shared this before publicly, but 8 years ago in my former role at an SCDN conference through it's a statewide group, we were told throughout all of New York State, enrollment is going down everywhere. That's why regionally so many schools have consolidated schools or closed schools or restructured. What I want to remind everybody is declining enrollment does not translate into proportional budget reductions because the intensity and the complexity of students' needs and the resources required to meet them have increased. So that's our situation here in Saugerties. Our enrollment is going down, But those 615 students with disabilities, they have needs, and the cost of those needs are different. And it might be transportation, it might be a one-to-one aid, and the range is very extensive. So here are some trends with enrollment. And you can see that in 2025, we've jumped way down to total students. And again, this year, 2,466. The varying needs run the gamut of everything from academic to, we might need 2 teachers in a room for co-teaching. They may not even have an IEP. And I need to remind everybody of that. They might be a student who has a 504 plan and not necessarily an IEP. They might need occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech. One of the things that has happened is 5 years ago, we were not doing our due diligence of assessing students in their literacy capacity. We were not attending to students with dyslexia. We did not even have reading specialists here in this district 5 years ago. That was a disservice to children. Today, we have 5 reading specialists. They have been trained in the Wilson Reading Program, which specializes in dyslexia. And if they haven't been trained and completed the program, we provide that training for them because we fundamentally believe that every single child has a human right to learn how to read, and that is essential. But consequently, 5 reading specialists, which we're not going to cut, that drives the cost up, right? And that's our job. If we're not doing teaching and learning, then why are we here? So as you can see on the right, we also have, on the opposite side of academic needs, we have some pretty extreme needs with mental health. And sometimes our students need therapeutic settings, sometimes they need hospitalization, sometimes they need home teaching. All of these situations have a dollar amount associated with them. Also, one of the things that is very difficult to budget for are students who have displaced housing, and that is very often referred to our McKinney-Vento grant. Social services may take one of our Saugerties families and place them in another district. We are responsible for transporting them. So it could be as far as the city of Poughkeepsie, Hudson, Cairo, and we have to transport them. And that is very hard to budget when we don't know where and how families are moving. We can project, and we always do, but it's not a finite number.
Thank you, Dr. Warbeck. So I'm going to get started by going over the revenue side of the budget. Many of these slides are things that we've been talking about over the last 2 or 3 meetings, but it's important that we touch on them again, as these are the things that make up the revenue side of the budget. The one big part is the tax levy. So this is our tax calculation for the upcoming school year. It starts with the current tax levy of the school year we're in. It's multiplied by the tax base growth, which is set by New York State. This is how much new construction that they're seeing in our area, so they allow for that into the calculation. The calculation also accounts for pilots, which are payment in lieu of taxes that the district is involved in. These are economic development projects. And it also includes the capital levy. This is for capital project payments on the bonds for those. So the $22 million capital project that was voter approved, the energy performance contract project, and the BOCES capital project that we're a component district in as well. One important part of that calculation is the tax levy growth factor. So this is a 2%, basically it's a 2% cap on the calculation. So we take either the lower of 2% or the inflation rate for this current school year that we're budgeting for. The CPI projection from the New York State Comptroller's Office is 2.63%, but we are limited to the lower of 2%. So we have to use 2% in that calculation. And this has been, the last few years, school districts aren't immune to inflation. We've been dealing with increased costs of supplies, electric, utilities as well. So this is something that limits our way to raise revenue to make up for those increased expenditures. So even though inflation is 2.63%, we're limited to just 2%. So in the end, after that calculation, it comes out to a 3.15% increase in the tax levy, which is about 1.5 million. So for our taxpayers, it's important that we know, like, how does this affect their town tax bill? So last month I presented on a $30,000 home in the town assessed at $300,000. It's about $116 a year or $10 a month. We also, for this board meeting, we projected out what it would look like for a home valued at $450,000. If you remember last month, I had coffee cups. I forgot to bring them this month, but it's $175 a year or about $15 a month. So if you drink Stewart's coffee, maybe about 7 cups of Stewart's coffee, 5 of Dunkin' a month, or 3 from Starbucks. While we're talking about the tax levy, I think it's important to talk about the tax levy limit. So we're allowed to increase it to 3.15%. In the last 5 years, we have raised it to the tax levy, but there were years past where we didn't raise it to the tax levy. So in this current budget, because we didn't raise in previous years to the tax levy, we're missing out on what potentially could have been $734,000 in revenue in this budget. But there's a compounding effect to that. So since 2012 and 2013, for not going to the levy, it has a total impact on revenue for the district from that time to now of about $8.6 million. So it's important as we budget that we think about not just this year, but future years as well. Moving on to the state aid side of the budget. State budget was due April 1st. It is April 14th today. We still don't have a budget as of 5 o'clock today. Last I knew, the state passed a second extender for their budget, to fund their budget. So we still don't have firm figures of what to anticipate for next year, but I am going to go through what the governor has proposed. So the biggest part of state aid is made up of foundation aid, and that's about 18 million. This number here, we are getting the minimum due increase of 1%, as we are considered, what the state considered a hold harmless district, which about 70% of districts in New York State are. What this does, it ensures us at least the same funding we received of foundation aid last year to the next year. This year, she's including a 1% minimum increase for hold harmless districts, which for us is an increase of $180,000. The rest of the aids, they've remained the same since last time we projected. Just a reminder, transportation billing aid, BOCES aid, the high cost aid, software aid, those are all expense-based aids. So more money we spend possibly, the more aid we would get. The access cost aid, I've explained it before, those are just a snapshot in time that New York State takes as more students, as they get students entered into this system for tracking and counting students. Those numbers could increase, but for now, those are the numbers that the state has budgeted. I also think it's important that we talk about in these calculations, they're complicated New York State calculations, but they also include a wealth ratio in those calculations. A factor of 1 would be for the school district, for the communities, but 1 would be an average wealth aid ratio. Anything above, of course, is a higher wealth ratio. Anything under is a lower wealth ratio. So in 2019, 2020, our wealth ratio was a 0.835. Since then, as we've seen more wealth move into the district, that number has increased to almost the state average. So we're now at a 0.992. So as New York State calculates these things, it's showing more wealth moving into the district, which takes reliance off the state and passes it on to our local taxpayers. Any questions? Yes, Ms. Bellarosa?
Okay, so just a couple questions. So just what you just said, how does that jive with where, you know, the wealth of the district is now getting to be New York State, but a prior slide showed where 50% of our students are at the poverty level or below. So I have a hard time wrapping my head around.
So the wealth ratio is just houses in the ratio. That doesn't reflect necessarily the population of our students in the buildings. It's just household incomes for the entire district, not just households attending the district.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I have is, we're talking about public excess high-cost aid and private excess cost aid going down, and going down significantly sort of as a dollar value percentage. And we're talking about increasing of our special ed costs and our special, so how do those two things, if we have increasing costs within the special ed environment, why is our excess high cost aid going down?
So New York State projects that off of what's entered into their system at that time. They consider it, they call it a snapshot at the time. So like if we went back to previous, so if we were at this time last year, like they were projecting those numbers lower. Again, it's something that's hard to predict. So those numbers are those numbers from New York State typically tend to be low, as it's hard to predict what the high-cost students are going to be into the district.
So, can we hear me? Okay. So it's also based on the students that we have enrolled out of the district and what we get back on those students. So it's sort of, yes, we're getting back money, but if we bring them in, we're not paying out the money initially to get it back later. So I think sometimes it's deceiving and hard to follow the dollar the whole way through. If you're looking at how much you get back, also based on, you know, if we send a kid to BOCES, we get a certain amount back. If we send a kid to, let's say, wraparound, we get another percentage back. So all of that is sort of folded into there as well. And whether or not the student stays in that placement or comes back into district, it is when you have like a certain number of students all coming back, then you're not paying out as much and you're not getting back as much, but you're also not paying as much up front. Does that kind of make sense a little bit?
So ideally for us, we'd rather have the students in our district. Is that what you just said?
Yes, if you have enough to substantiate like a classroom. So I would say that if you have, in my calculations when I'm looking at it, sometimes it's between like 4 and 5 students. That is that kind of threshold. If it's 1 or 2 students, then it doesn't cost to hire a TA and a teacher and to keep that classroom going and to have the OT needs and the PT needs and the speech needs met. Sometimes it costs more than to send them out. But
so the fewer the out-of-district placements, the better.
In theory, yes, but you're going to see that number
Never
go
like to
down
say
then.
in theory.
So
Either we'd rather have.
I say yes, but
here.
this number is not going to, like, they're 2 different places in the budget, so you're not going to ever see them together. So you're going to keep seeing this number go down the more we bring in.
Okay.
Even though the tuition rates in kind of my budget lines would then decrease, and the salaries in the contracted salaries would increase. So the money's being spent elsewhere, and this is going to happen.
You always want to bring them back. You always want them to be with their community. So sometimes when we bring them back, it does cost us more because now we have to supply all that and we're not getting necessarily the high-cost aid like we would if they were going out.
So when, there's a lot of decisions that go into an individual service plan for the 613 kids that need, and then probably the EL decision. And is that something that's taken into account?
You can't. You cannot take that into account when you're sitting at a CSE meeting. You have to take into account what that individual student needs in front of you, and the district is required to create the program if it doesn't exist.
So, but what if there's two different solutions, like one in the district and one out of the district? Can you then take cost into the equation if they're both equivalent outcomes?
Essentially, no. It's really what's best for that student. It's really, it can't be like monetary wise. We can't be talking about that in a meeting. Sometimes people will talk about that in a meeting, saying like, oh, we don't have that, or we can't do that. And there's a certain degree, 90% of the time I'm sitting at the table when these types of conversations are happening, because I can see that we're going in that direction for a student, so that I'm able to kind of flow in appropriately, if that makes sense, like while still keeping the student at the center of the decision. But a lot of times, like Lisa said, we err on the side of keeping them in because that is the environment in which they can be part of their community, and they can be accessing maybe some other things like clubs or sports or things that are really hard for them to access if they're out of district. But we do have students where we're never going to be able to provide all that they need with the specialists that they need, and they're going to have to go out of district.
Right. So we don't have a ton of discretion about this. It's really, you know, we're meeting the requirements of the state education system, and it's not really discretionary, is what I'm hearing in a lot of cases. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. The one other question I had for Mr. Sager was, I heard you say that the compounding effect of not going to the tax cap since basically 2012 is roughly $8 million. Does that mean that if we had gone to the tax cap every year since 2012, we would have $8 million more for one particular revenue year, or is that the cumulative effect of all of those years?
It's the cumulative effect of all those years. For just 1 year, it'd be about $735,000.
Thank you very much.
So you take that along with the fact that there were years in which Saugerties did not have a capital project, and both of those were areas in which the district lost revenue, money, opportunities, and aid.
Can I just ask a question about, so just to kind of clarify about the special ed program. So keeping a student, even if it's less cost effective by bringing those students back because we have a program here, or we create a program here, the fact that, I mean, we have to place a student in the least restrictive environment, which is, you know, a regulation, right? So sometimes having them able to, having students able to access their own community and clubs and things like that, is that the least restrictive environment? Are those kinds of things what would be considered that?
Not really.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
So technically, least restrictive environment is like build-a-bell. You're not talking about those other pieces, but when you're sitting at a CSE
Okay.
meeting, you're certainly talking about those other pieces, right? When you're
Right.
sitting in front of a parent talking about their baby and what they need to be successful, we're always talking about the whole picture, and those things are important. But in terms of regulation-wise, that's not really, they're talking about their education.
I'm just thinking like going to a private placement where it might be different, but rather than staying here, I mean, that to me seems like that's least restrictive. Instead of going to a private placement and having a program right here in our own school, no.
Could be.
It could be, right? I guess it depends,
I think by
right?
regulation-wise, the answer is no, but by like ethical and what is best for students and the committee that's getting to make that decision, I think, in my experience, would say, yes, it's best for the student to be here with their peers as much as they possibly can.
These are really good questions. We really appreciate them.
Good. Then moving on to our next slide. So this is our total projected revenue for the whole year, combining the big factors of the tax levy, the state aid, some other things I want to highlight in there. Leases, so we have leases at the Mount Marion building. It does show a decrease in that calculation. It's not an actual decrease in revenue, it's just the way there's a new government agency, so GASB 87 it's called, it's the Government Agency Standards Board. They passed a new regulation of the way we account for leases. So some of that revenue shows up in the interest in earnings column now. So I think of it kind of like buying a car. So in leases, you have your principal, and then in interest, you have the interest. So it's accounted for differently, but we still have all the same leases at the Mount Marion building. Some other ones in there, we have E-rate reimbursement. This is federal reimbursement to help pay for internet and technology. Reimbursements and other miscellaneous revenue. This covers a couple different things, including facility usage, student fees, prior year expenses, sale of scrap. And so overall, our total revenue for the school year increases 2.8%. Last year, we appropriated $2.8 million in fund balance to get to that $79,876,000 to balance the budget. Any questions?
So of the 2.8 that we appropriated last year to balance the budget, did we touch it?
So that wouldn't be until the end of the year. But in previous years, we have not touched our reserves that we had to appropriate.
So we have appropriated reserves in past years, but we've not touched them. We don't know where this year's gonna land yet, but we did appropriate 2.8, but there's a possibility. Have we touched any of it yet?
No.
Not for this year?
Not yet.
And our fiscal year goes through?
June 30th.
So we have basically 2-ish months, 3 months left. Okay, so we're on hopefully a good track with that.
No.
And then this chart just shows how our revenue budget is made up. So most of it you can see is.
Can you go back?
Yes, absolutely.
I apologize. So the BOCES refund is exactly the same?
Yes. So it's always, the last 2 years, that's fallen right in that same range. I believe this year was a little higher, the year before was
BOCES expense
lower.
the same in each year?
Oh, no. No, BOCES went up.
This year, it significantly went up. Last year, to balance the budget, we significantly cut a lot of our needed BOCES services, but in the end, we even had an extra meeting with our colleagues at Ulster BOCES to question it, because at one point, you'll see that it goes up 15%. Is it this slide? But really, their budget is only going up 2%, which you need to vote on next time. But our expenses, to balance the budget, again, last year, we cut a lot of services, but at the end of the day, our students needed those services.
So we provided them anyway?
We had to.
Through BOCES or on our own?
Through BOCES.
I need to understand that a little better. Ellen.
So, I don't know where this would be embedded in these projected revenue line items, but what about grant funding? You know, like I think about the Plan Pilot, we're one of 23 districts in the state that's doing this exceptional work.
Right.
Is there grant funding available
No,
for Plan Pilot?
not for the Plan Pilot, no.
Or other things?
So here's an example of where we are using some grant funds is in Rocco's technology budget, 88,000. Take that out and we can use smart bonds, which is through New York State, and we can use that. So anywhere where we can use grants or funds like that, we absolutely are.
Not to attack BOCES, that's not my intent here. That 600,000 in 2025 and 26 is what percentage of our total BOCES expense, and then the same thing in 26, 27, where it stayed the same, but our costs went way up. What are we talking about? Is that 50% of what we pay for BOCES? Is it 25% of what we pay for BOCES?
I can get you an exact, I don't want to say figure out loud. I have a figure in mind, but I'll get you an exact figure for that.
I'd rather have that, okay, all right.
Can I ask a question about Medicaid? So the Medicaid for last year was 300,000. We've increased the number of special ed students. Does that mean that Medicaid, or is that just an estimate?
Carol, I am so glad you brought this up, because through Dr. Kapler, this was one of the things we found recently, that most districts are not.
No, I gotta go.
Somebody's on. Okay.
No, it's not me. It was Christina was walking and had unmuted her phone.
I
So,
fixed
anyway,
it. I'm
carry
so
on.
incredibly sorry.
No worries.
It's all good. So the Medicaid is a great example of how many school districts who don't take the time to recoup for Medicaid are missing out. And Dr. Kapler, a few years ago, with her support team, realized this and brought more funds back in. Did you want to say something quick?
Yeah, so, you know, we continue to bill all the time. And yes, we're getting new special ed. We have to get the consent from a parent to bill. That's been probably our hardest thing. We've sent out, I mean, we've gotten a lot of them, but we have sent out probably 4 different times to a group to get it. So right now, I mean, we're hoping, I'm pretty confident it'll stay the same as it was last year, but we'll have 6 months after the school year ends to keep trying to get more. Diana Thompson works with me on getting scripts all the time, and she just does it all every day. And we just keep submitting it. So I think we could get it up a little bit more, but it's just hit or miss on whether parents don't have to sign off to do it.
That's too bad. You know, I mean, yeah, okay.
I mean, we try to word it that we're not looking to find out, you know, what you're
Right.
making and all this.
Right.
You know, but some people just don't think it's our
Right,
business.
yeah, I get that. Thank you.
Are there other things like that, you know, that, you know, over the years that we haven't sort of taken full financial advantage of? Other than sort of what went on in 2012?
I don't think anything like that on the revenue side. We have missed out by not continually doing capital projects. We've missed out on building aid. Should do work to our buildings that are needed to make them more compliant. So for those things we've missed out on, but nothing that we can think of on the revenue side of it.
Right.
Then this next slide just shows how our revenues make up our budget. So most of it is non-discretionary. So the tax levy is the big number in our budget, makes up almost 60% of the budget. A third of it is state aid. And then other things that we get interest earnings. So last year we switched to NICLAS, which is like a high yield savings account for school districts. Funds are liquid. So we're able to get money when we need to pay the bills. We're able to do transfers, but earn high interest rates. So that has helped us with our interest earnings in previous years, and also, so that's 1.2% of the budget. And last year we had 3.5% of the budget was made up of fund balance and reserves. So then we move into the expenditure side of the budget, and where we are currently at with our projections. We'll go through here, starting the first code here covers Board of Education, central administration. That includes superintendent's office, our attorneys, business office, personnel. So that has an increase, so we're restoring positions. That has an increase of 18.65%.
So some people might think the Board of Education is paid. you. The Board of Education is not paid, but there are trainings associated and some legal advisement that is associated. And again, I just want to reiterate this. What's also in that top line are unfulfilled vacancies in Mr. Steiger's office and in central office. And we had 2 internal audits this year. And both of those different auditors said the biggest risk of our district right now is personnel. That we didn't have enough personnel in central office for things like curriculum and instruction and for things like human resources. And Mr. Steiger did not have enough personnel in the business office. So again, I want to be crystal clear that these aren't new positions. We are filling vacancies.
And then moving down to the instruction side of the budget, that had about 3.11% increase. We've talked a lot about special ed tonight, so that projects for the special ed budget 4%, but then we move down to, that doesn't include the BOCES portion, which is in the next line for BOCES services. This is where we're seeing a big increase, as Dr. Warbeck touched on earlier, an increase of 15% over what was budgeted for last year. Part of that being, as she said, programs that we needed to have that were trimmed out for last year, but services we needed to provide and are brought back for this upcoming year.
Wait, can I ask you a question? BOCES, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, because I'll back right.
How much, I can't tell if this thing's on, how much of that 9,200,000 that's budgeted, if you know, would have been avoided if we didn't have to make the mandatory contributions into IPAR 87? Like, how much did our costs incrementally go up through that mandate? And if you don't know that now, let's talk about it next week or
we can
in the
find out.
intervening week. I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
We can find out for you.
Because
And
again,
then,
these are things that it's important for the public to understand.
Sure.
It's not discretionary in the district. You know, we were instructed that this was what we needed to contribute. But I think, Jeff, to your question, if we're looking at this apples to apples, it was 600,000 on revenue that we saw for BOCES, right? And it's $9.2 million on the expense side, roughly?
Yes, so that revenue is, BOCES can't make any type of profit, so at the end of the year, after they close their books, any additional revenues that they have, they return them the following year to their component districts.
Okay. So help me understand something else here. Because I've heard it 3 times now. Sorry, I got to talk all night. I'm sorry.
So BOCES, so I've heard this said 3 times and I'm not getting it. How much of that 1.2 million, because forget the 15%, the 1.2 million is what's in my head. We're saying we cut those expenses. We cut some of that stuff last year and we're adding it back into the budget. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't remember going through a budget last year and saying we gotta hack BOCES. Maybe you did, I don't remember that, especially that kind of amount. So how much of that is just services we put back, but then also BOCES simply increasing their costs?
so a couple of things. Their increased costs for next year is only 2%. I have a video, I will share it with everybody. It's a 2-minute video of their budget. If you want to know the exact what was cut and then what we put back in, we can certainly work on that. That's why we met with Ulster BOCES again last week. Did you want to give an example of a service that we needed to do a budget amendment for?
So a lot of times, I'd say like assistive tech is a big one for us. So every assistive technology. So every time a student needs an assistive technology evaluation in the past school year, that's roughly like $3,000 for that evaluation, right? So we have to, and then they get a service, which is then provided by BOCES. So we do in a budget amendment form for that evaluation, go over the evaluation at a meeting, we decide the services, and they come in and do that. Now, we're hopeful this coming year, we have in-house person that we trained up, that I talked about at my last presentation, so that some of that will be reduced. Still, students, though, that are going to other out-of-district placements will need that support. Additionally, each student, they charge us for each student's tuition. If they have a one-to-one aide, that's an additional charge. And then every service, depending on the frequency, is another charge through BOCES. That's at a certain rate, so if those rates change, each piece of that child's rate changes. So even if I just kind of did a rough count, it's about like maybe 28 students, and it didn't really change year over year from last year to this year of the number of students we were sending, but each of those students, the cost to send them goes up. So then you have to kind of put that into perspective of each of those individual, they're not gonna be the same price to send to BOCES each year. BOCES is gonna increase a little bit for each one of those students.
Are you saying 28 students go to BOCES?
As special placements.
For special placement? I was
Right.
gonna say $9 million for 28
Way more.
students?
Wait, this is not just for special education
No.
placements
No,
at
this is the whole-
BOCES.
This
This
is
is all of it. They don't piece it out in this number for you, but that's part of the number.
It's special education, it's career and technical education, it's everything through instructional services. Like there were some COSERs that were taken away and we absolutely need school improvement. That is the arm of the state that supports all the standards work. It's everything.
Okay.
Moving to transportation, I'll be the third person to say it now tonight. A survey went out that will help us with, potentially help us with routing efficiency. So if you got that, please do it. So right now, as we look at the budget, we're seeing a big increase in transportation costs, $885,000 increased budget to budget. We've talked about this previously with an influx of McKinney-Vento students and the need to provide transportation to them. This is on par with what we've seen this year. We've had a lot of students with needs all over within a 50-mile radius, Hudson, Carroll, Allenville. So we do have students that we're transporting from all corners of the county. So we are seeing a high increase in transportation costs.
Trustee Kelder, you have a question?
I do. I gotta
Great.
get this mic. Let's see. Maybe not. Oh, got it. Do we get reimbursed at all from the state for those McKinney-Vento students? Is that part of revenue as well, or?
It doesn't cover everything. Yes,
Right.
yes, there is support, but it's the transportation costs that we're not getting enough to
Okay.
support all those costs.
Okay.
I just want to put in one plug for Mr. Steiger. He and I, and everybody here, we have always been told that we needed to provide transportation for every single pupil, every single student in the district. And in our research of going line by line and researching everything, we found out that the regulations have changed. We don't need to do that. So that is the reason why we're sending out the survey.
Yeah, because that's, I think, up until earlier this year, that's what we were told.
Correct.
So that could be a big.
Correct. So, yes, that coupled with, yes, insurance.
Yeah, that is major.
Yes,
I
so.
love the survey.
Yeah.
Bill.
If you're listening and got the survey,
That's
please
right.
fill it out. It is very important
We're gonna
as we're
survey all night
developing the
long.
budget.
5 or 6 times.
Yeah, exactly. So hit the other couple of big ones, hit property insurance.
Yes, so
Sorry,
Means 27,000.
not to beat a dead horse on the transportation, but yes, if we're able to cut the transportation costs down, transportation isn't state aidable line item, so we will see in future years a reduction in state aid revenue, if we bring down transportation costs. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so transportation is aid-based, so, or expense-based rather, so obviously if we were to spend less in transportation costs, we would get less aid in future budgets. But some of these bus routes can run over $100,000, so if there's a possibility of trimming down and being more efficient, that's something that would be very wise for the district.
Thank you. So again, fill it out. We have a large geographic area and we won't know unless you tell us. You know, if a bus is going into a neighborhood, you know, that bus needs to go into the neighborhood and it's not gonna make a difference if it's 1 or 2 kids. But if we can cut 2, that will make a difference, 2 buses.
Then want to touch on another big line item in here is property insurance, where we are seeing a large increase budget to budget. So in here, I have budgeted currently 1.2 million. Just going over this number, in 23-24, our actual expenditures for insurance were 267,000, based on some claims we've had, insurance rates raising. In 25-26, our insurance cost is just over $1 million for this current school year. One thing to note of that, we are self-insured for the first $200,000, so any claim we have come in, the district is liable for the first $200,000 currently. So what we're doing to rectify this is we went out for an RFP, a request for proposal for insurance brokers, to explore our options to get this cost better under control for the district. This is obviously one of the large drivers we see here, and Dr. Rohrbeck and I are looking into ways to bring this down to a more sustainable number for us.
If I remember correctly, so it's 455,000 higher now, but 3 years ago, that number, that 774, was what? 300,000?
Probably even less.
So we're talking about that number's $1 million higher.
Correct.
Than it was 3 years ago.
Correct. And just
simply because of how we are insured and the incidents we've had.
Correct. And then another one, I just want to touch on debt service and inter-fund transfers, seeing an increase in there. Most of that being to fund the extended school year for the summer program for special ed students, providing tuition and transportation for that. That line increasing about $260,000 overall. So when we add all these up, budget to budget, it's an increase of 5.2 million and 6.5% as we stand at the moment. This is just a pie chart just showing the breakdown of all those expenses. As we can see, a large portion of that is employee benefits, money spent on instruction as well. I don't have them grouped together, but between salaries and benefits, it makes up 68% of our budget. So a lot of the budget, as we're doing these things, they're contractual. They're things that we don't have much control over. Health insurance rates went up high this year as well, so those are all factors as we were budgeting through. This is a slide just to compare our historical budget amounts over previous years. Between 2020 and 2023, the budget remained relatively flat. That's when we were getting the American Rescue Plan, the COVID funds. So the general fund budget remained relatively flat, but after those funds ended, this is where we see it start to increase. So some of that increase was adding those positions back to the general fund budget as we saw the needs that our students had and the success. So adding those positions back, also inflation, student needs, all driving our budgets up. So now that I've presented the revenues and expenditures, we get to our current difference between revenues and expenditures. As we stand right now, almost 5.9 million. So this is a number Dr. Rohrbeck and I are looking at very closely. As of last Friday, that number was about $1 million higher, 6.9 million. So we are going line by line. We are looking at every source of ways to bring that down, which we will get into ways next of how we can balance the budget. So there's a couple ways. We can increase revenue, we can consider exceeding the tax cap, re-examining our revenue projections. We could use fund balance and reserves as we adjust to this change in landscape that we have. Continue to optimize our interest earnings. Some things on the revenue side, there's also ways for us to decrease expenses, so that would be reviewing staffing levels, future retirements, monitoring class sizes and sections. As we mentioned, review transportation routes. There's a survey out. If you received it, please take it. Very important. About
Dr. Rohrbeck, who did the survey go to? Like,
It went to the primary contact for each student, because we didn't want the data to be skewed by sending to both
so
guardians.
primary contact with the
Primary contact.
Email survey?
There was a link that went out through Infinite Campus. We're gonna send it out again tomorrow. And then again, and it's due on
I
Friday.
know what Michelle's thinking. I'm the primary contact for my student, and I don't miss it.
I am.
Oh, okay.
And then, as I mentioned, we also did that request for proposal for insurance broker, other ways that we are looking to decrease expenses. So as we're doing this, we're looking to make strategic decisions that align to our blueprint for excellence, prioritizing programs and services for our students. They're at the center of all the decisions we make. And as we plan this budget, yes, we're doing the budget for the 2026-2027 school year, but we've talked a lot about, Dr. Rohrbeck and I have talked a lot about future budgets and what those will look like and what the needs will be in planning for that. So I did mention earlier, the difference before was about 6.8 million, so we did bring it down about $1 million. So how did we do that? We went line by line, every single line item in the budget we went through. We reduced supplies and materials where possible, overtime and extra pay opportunities where possible. We've met with our admin team to receive feedback for building expenditures and staffing. Now that we have the DHEC rate, we updated health insurance projections based on the 9.71% that DHEC, our health insurance plan, will be increasing. We eliminated transportation routes that won't be needed for next year. And right now we are reviewing the BOCES services and programs as well.
I apologize for not knowing the answer to this question, but for all of our collective bargaining units, do any of those contracts come up for renegotiation in 26-27, or are they all?
So they're all settled right now. I believe STA is, our teachers union is up at the end of 2027. I believe it is.
Yes, technically they are, but in discussions about possibly extending it.
But I guess for my purposes, we know what those expenses look like for this school year because those CBAs are done for 26-27.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And as we're going through this, some things to consider to find some savings could be reducing armed security down to 1 and removing them from the elementary and increasing an SRO at the elementary level.
Sure, so let me just expand this. This is a possibility. So for example, right now we use Atlas Security. So what we are proposing and inviting you to think about is the safest school is a locked school and locked classrooms. That is the safest. So if we reduce the armed security at the elementary, but add an additional SRO, so we will have 2 SROs, one for the elementary schools and one will remain here. It does save us. And with that, the other thing I'm proposing is keeping the 1 Atlas secondary security, armed security for secondary. And as you can see, if we do that, it saves us $155,615.
We talked earlier about using Smart Schools Bond Act to purchase some of Rocco's Technology purchases, about $88,000. We've talked about the transportation survey, opt-in out, potential savings and reduction of bus routes. We also have teacher assistant retirement and 1 to 2 teacher retirements. There's possible attrition there. There's nothing final. There's a UPK nurse, which is not required. We have cameras in the budget for $35,000. This is something that has been moved into the budget new for this year. We get building aid at a ratio of about 66% on these, but they are in the budget for this current year. There's a walkie-talkie contract for $28,000 that we have for admin walkie-talkies. Field trips at a cost of $85,000. Looking at club reductions, which for clubs that aren't utilized as much, with possible reductions in stipends, and modified sports at $75,000.
Mr. Meyer.
Hi. I just had a question on the instructional technology. Can you please just expand on how that's a cost savings?
So we would be we have funds available in the Smart Schools Bond Act, which is a grant. So we would utilize funds that are available there to buy some of the smart display boards, rather than purchasing them from our general fund budget.
Sorry, the items in this table are not currently in the current budget? These are things that are...
They would be in the budget right now.
These are already in the
These
budget?
are currently, so these are things to consider.
That's an important thing that everybody takes. These are not, these
Yes,
are
nothing-
options, right?
Yes, nothing here is final, they're just potential possibilities, but just because they're on the list doesn't mean that anything on this list is being cut.
So is that the field trips, is that field trips for everybody? That's like field
That's-
trips K-12?
Field trips and transportation for everybody,
Okay,
yes.
Right,
Correct.
so 2 years ago, they were taken out of the general fund, then we put them back in. And obviously, the PTA, especially at the elementary level, they do a beautiful job of supplementing this because field trips do offer a wonderful experience for our young Sawyers to experience the world and have place-based learning. So yes, all of these things are considerations of other things that could be cut.
Yeah. And this is not, you don't even have to answer this. And this is not, I know you guys have done amazing work over the last week and a half. But it always seems like when we have these conversations, it's the same things I see on the slide. Right? Field trips and modified sports. Right? If I go back to 2 years ago, it was field trips and modified sports. That's what we looked at.
Right. Yeah, it's, you know, and morally, do I agree with those things? Do we agree with those things? When I opened up today of the Sawyer experience, no, we need those things for the Sawyer experience. As a mother of a 12-year-old, I know the healthiest place for him to be is in modified sports. I believe every junior high kid, let's keep them busy, let's keep them in clubs. We want them here, healthy, engaged, and active. Unfortunately, they do end up frequently on most school budgets. It is, you know, low-hanging fruit to grab first.
And then the other question is, and maybe it's great that we're looking at different things. I've always had, one thing that's always popped up in these discussions is what's mandated and not mandated. I haven't seen those two words all the time.
Right, because, so this is where we drew the line a little bit differently.
I'm upset, I just.
Okay, so to be clear, is kindergarten mandated? No. But are we gonna put that up there? I said 3 months ago, it would be absolutely ridiculous and against our value system if we even considered kindergarten.
Okay. So we just moved away from those two words of what's mandated and not mandated. Okay, that's fair. Every other piece of budget presentation I've seen from the school is always, it's these two buckets, and then we make decisions.
Well, we've talked a lot about what is mandated and what's not. And we've
Okay.
talked about how there are a lot of unfunded mandates.
Uh-huh.
And that is true.
Okay, it's fair. Any other questions, folks, from around the table? I was giving Christine just a minute to get the mic turned on, right?
No, I just, and I know nothing is set in stone, but, I mean, a couple years ago, there was a big push for armed security in all of our buildings. And to step back, and specifically in the outlying elementary schools who are kind of rural and getting to them in an emergency. So if you're gonna increase an SRO and they're gonna be deployed to the elementary, like how do you envision that working to ensure the safety of our elementary schools when that was, a big push 2 years ago?
Right, it was a big push. I believe it was, yeah, absolutely, it was, and this community wanted it. There was a survey that went out, and they wanted armed security. That's what this community said. Again, what the research will say is the safest school is a locked building, all exterior doors, and every classroom locked. So in our facilities meeting, just before this board meeting, and also in our safety meeting, one of the things that we do here in Saugerties is we do unannounced safety walks to remind our staff to lock their doors. And we also partner with Ulster BOCES to ensure that we're doing everything that we can. So we do those two mechanisms of locking. In terms of your question of how they will be deployed, the elementary SRO, they would rotate through the buildings. There would be a monitor at the door, like a monitor, much lower salary. We do have a Vader system that we use that came in under the supervision of another superintendent a couple superintendents ago. And every single guest needs to sign in, their license is taken. It's a very high security way so that we know the people who are coming into our buildings. And we would continue to do that.
And I guess this year, through the capital project, every building now has a secure vestibule where we didn't have that 2 years ago.
Correct. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
So does that number take into account then like monitors that you would need to hire? That savings, did it take into account?
So either we may not need to hire them, we have a lot of part-time monitors, so maybe there's ways in which we could restructure the employment of our current monitors. We may have to hire a few. We need to take a deep dive in that, but the cost of a monitor versus an armed security guard is much lower.
One more question. Would Atlas provide just one security guard? Would that have a contractual impact where we've had 3 or 4 of them? I think we dropped one last year, possibly, I think out at Mount Marion. Would they still consider us a client if we dropped to 1?
Well, we won't know unless we ask, and I'll have that decision but very quickly.
Then in the next slide, we're just looking at, for this current school year, that'll be ending June 30th, retirements that are coming through. So we have some elementary school teachers, secondary teachers, 1 social worker, and a teacher assistant. So when we talk about savings, one thing is salary breakage, which what that means is when a teacher retires and they're on a higher step, possibly like a step 30 if they've been here 30 or more years, and then we rehire for that position, a new employee at a lower step, we get that breakage, that salary savings from the new employee being on the lower step. So right now, we know of 18 known retirements that'll be happening over the next 2 school years following this school year. Mr. Wilder's office is working very hard. The HR office is working very hard to look at our staff ratio and try to determine upcoming retirement predictions that we may have and projecting those as well as potential savings.
Sorry, can I have a question? So the breakage, I mean, you really, you know, is there a policy or a practice that you have an elementary teacher retiring who's probably on the top or close to top step? When you rehire, if you need to rehire that element, are we, you know, do we have a policy that we're not gonna go above a step 4? Like, are we gonna hire them at step 1? Because that's the only way you're gonna actually see the savings, is if you do have significant savings on the, you know, high step versus low
Right.
step.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So typically, what Mr. Steiger does is budget like step 7. At the end of the day, we want the best teacher we possibly can, and we want to recruit heavily so we get good quality people. But the reality is, yes, we're going for those early career teachers at a lower salary. And then Mr. Steiger budgets not a step 1, so we're cut off guard, but like a step 7, so it balances out.
Thank you.
And also, just to piggyback off that a little bit, it's also savings in Social Security and TRS. We contribute, so we're projecting 8.24% for next year for TRS contribution rate. So we contribute 8.24% towards the salary. So any savings in salary is also a savings in retirement system costs and Social Security costs as well that we contribute towards. I want to give an update on our reserves. These are like our rainy day funds for our school district. So we have a couple different reserves. Just going to touch on the first few first, the employee retirement system reserves. So this reserve can be used to pay towards the employer contribution towards employees' benefits or retirement. So for the ERS system, we're projecting that cost to be about $1.1 million for the 2026-2027 school year. We contribute 17.6% of salary for each ERS employee to that fund. So projecting $1.1 million for next year. That's about 3 years of expenses there. So we do have healthy reserves in the employee retirement reserve. There's also, we have one for the ERS system, that's for our non-instructional staff. We also have a teacher retirement system. Those are for our instructional staff, which has about $2.3 million in there. Again, I said it before, but we are required to contribute the employer contribution rate, 8.24% of salary for each employee in that system. We are required to contribute that rate towards. There's also $4.7 million in the capital reserve. It's important to note that that reserve can't be used to balance the budget. It can only be used for capital projects. To use that reserve, it requires voter approval. So that one's much more restricted and isn't something that we'd be able to look at for balancing a budget. And then the tax certiorari reserve. So this reserve we use for when people dispute their tax bills and we get a court ruling that their taxes are their assessments being reduced and they're owed taxes, a reduction in their taxes. So we use that tax certiorari reserve to offset those costs as they arise. Questions on reserves? Yes, Ms. Bellery.
So I understand the capital reserve, we can't use that to balance our budget. But also understanding that that capital reserve had a 10-year life that expires in 2027 and needs voter approval to be used. We're coming up on the 26-27 school year. Does there need to be something within our budget vote to release that reserve for, like, we haven't talked about a capital project that's on the table, but does that have to be done now in the May vote, or to use, how is that gonna work? That's my question.
We're not to that cycle yet.
Yes, so we wouldn't have to do that for this upcoming vote, no.
Okay.
No.
We're still finishing up a very large capital project.
But that reserve had a shelf life of 10 years. which expires in June 30, 2027.
At the end of next year, right?
So, does that mean we have to use it by June 30, 2027? Or do we have to vote by June 30, 2027 to release it potentially the following year? I guess I'm just trying to understand, because I don't want to leave that money on the table. I don't want
Right.
to lose that money. So, just want to understand that.
So I don't have the exact answer for you. It doesn't change anything for this. We wouldn't lose that money. That's the district's money. So there's no chance of losing the money. I can find out if we'll need, so we are supposed to use it by June of 2027. I can find out from our legal team if we have to do a resolution. If we don't use it by then, to extend it. I can find out next steps for that. So just some key takeaways as we wrap this up. Just a couple things. Expenditures are rising faster than revenues, as we saw. State aid growth is minimal and isn't keeping pace with inflation. Much of our budget, it's driven by contractual and mandated costs, non-discretionary things that are out of our control. But as we build this budget, we want to be fiscally responsible to our community, our taxpayers, as we make strategic decisions that are going to be required not just for now, but for our future budgets, for our future students. It's going to require prioritizing what's most important for our students.
So I heard someone recently say, where is Saugerties' 5-year plan? And we were last year on a trajectory with bringing in Dr. Timms of really developing that. And obviously with transition in leadership and vacancies at central office, we are still thinking about it. And we still need to plan for 5 years. So some of the things I want to reiterate is, for Saugerties, we can't go below the tax cap. We're not doing any student any favors at all. And as Mr. Steiger said, we're trying to play catch up now of years missed out and where we did leave $8 million on the table. So in the next couple of years, this year is super tight and challenging, but I do see a light at the end of the tunnel because we are going to have a lot of retirements and we can leverage using attrition where and when viable. And there are, like Mr. Steiger said, there are known retirements. We look at the age of staff and the years that they have, and we will be having a lot of retirements coming up in the secondary. The other things is transportation, our efficiency, looking at that. In the next 5 years, we need to look at our elementary schools again. These conversations are not new. When districts are really having fiscal constraints, very often they look at enrollment, they look at where they can close a building, they look at restructuring. Saugerties has done a lot of those things. What's left is really looking at our elementary. Is there a different way in which we might use our 3 elementary schools? And if we did that, we might have better supports for co-teaching. Through retirement, attrition of elementary teachers. We need to continue ensuring that our Medicaid billing is fully happening. And we need to continually make sure we have those capital projects happening so that we are receiving the aid. Our buildings are old, just like every other public school. There's constant improvements that are needed. And ideally, there's other creative things that we can think about. So what if we had our own fleet of Suburbans for our McKinney-Vento students that are out of district? That potentially could save the district some money instead of contracting out. So thinking about things like that, it's not too soon. And we need to keep pushing forward and thinking about the future instead of getting stuck in the cycle of being underwater fiscally. So Just a healthy reminder, being a board member is a fantastic civic duty to your community. It's a great group of people, and if you are interested, you can, at this point, on Monday, April 20th, the board petitions and first candidate expenditure report are due on or before. That we're going to come together on Tuesday, April 21st. And then on May 15th, the second candidate expenditure report is due. And on May 19th, board member and budget proposition vote. That is our vote. And I hope everybody comes out and votes. If all of our employees come out and vote who live and work in Saugerties, we will be in a very healthy place. So if you live and work in Saugerties, please come out and vote. So that was a lot. And one of the things I would like to ask the board to consider is how we might use some of those reserves.
Any other questions? No?
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to L, personnel, instructional, and non-instructional. We're gonna break this up a little bit. We have an L1 and L2, which are resignations and leaves of absence. So can I have a motion to accept L1 and L2, A through D? Second. Ms. Irizarry, seconded by Mr. Meyer. Any questions on any of those? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is L3, which is appointments. And before we vote on it, if Mr. Wilder, our new Assistant Superintendent of HR and Instructional Leadership, could you go through those appointments for us?
Is this on? All right, so we are excited about the new team members that are joining us here at Saugerties, because as we know that every team member that joins us is contributing to our mission. So I would like to say that we would like to welcome the appointment of Kimberly Johnson. She is going to be joining us as Riccardi's secretary, and she comes with a strong business background, exceptional systems-oriented thinking, and has the attention to detail that we need very dearly. She will be a welcoming, positive contributor right away. Next up, we have Pedro Quick. We're excited to welcome him as our new lunch monitor to the team, and we appreciate the positive energy and care that he is going to be bringing to supporting our students each and every day. In addition, Christina Tucker is going to be appointed. She's going to be a lunch monitor at Cahill Elementary, and she brings a strong sense of responsibility and attentiveness and care for student well-being. She is also a parent with children currently in the district. And so we welcome each of them to the Saugerties team.
All right. Thank you. So
Can I have a motion to accept L3, A through G? By Ms. Kelder. Seconded by Ms. Bellarosa. Any questions on those? All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, Steve. All right, business office recommendations. We have M1 through 6, which is our monthly treasurer's report, our revenue and appropriations, claims audit, cooperative bidding blanket, budget transfer, like 500,000. Okay, and the single audit report. Can I have a motion for items M1 through 6? By Ms. Grimalia, seconded by Ms. Bellarosa. Any questions?
No, I'll just, I'm gonna just mention number 6 is a single audit report. That's just something that the auditors do in addition to the financial statement audit. They look at the compliance of our federal spending, our grant spending, so they go through that make sure that we're in compliance with how that money's being spent, and that's just an add-on that they need as a requirement of the school district audit, and that was issued in March, so.
All right, perfect. Any other questions or statements on that? Okay, all those in favor? All right. Board action items. N1 through 13. CSA, our 504, the three second readings of policies that Dr. Haas mentioned before. We have a rescission of an appointment, start date amendment, and then the final, the change order on the Cahill fire alarm. All right, can I have a motion for items N1 through 13? Mr. Rosari, seconded by Mr. Meyer. Any questions on any of those? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Christine, anything on audit?
Nothing.
Nothing on audit. Michelle, facilities?
Everybody just stay tuned, we're gonna be having meetings about the Riccardi easement. The engineering work is ongoing with that. We are hopefully going to be making a decision on taking custody of the granted land in the next couple of months. We were talking about Mount Marion and what to do with that, so please pay attention to facilities meetings, and those are open to the public.
Fantastic. Okay. Second, public recognition. Anybody in the audience want to say? No, we're good. Okay. All right. We are going to propose motion to move into executive session. Ms. Kelder, seconded by Mr. Wells. Any questions? Okay. When we reconvene, we will not be voting on anything. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
By Mr. Wells. By Ms. Kelder. Any questions? Okay. Motion, motion to adjourn. By Ms. Irizarry first, Mr. Wells second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.